Welcome to the Dynamics Hot Dish, the podcast where Ashley Steiner, Allie Nelson, and Liz McLennan dish up the latest news and insights about Dynamics and the Power Platform. Join us to explore business applications and low-code development with tips, tricks, and real-world experiences. So grab a seat at the table and let's dig in. When did you go on this date, Ashley?
Where or when?
When was it?
It was actually really close to when I got here, a couple weeks.
How did you meet him?
A dating app.
Okay. I mean, that's what's
it's
normal these days.
It's like the new old-fashioned
Because I was
way.
like, I was like, well, I've got to meet people, right? So I got down here and I was in this super I need to meet people. And it'd be great if this person had a big community of friends and stuff. Because so that's why I went on this dating app. Yeah, no, this guy. So it's always interesting when they start a conversation with, now, I'm not a doomsday prepper, but let's just say I'm prepared.
Oh.
So he has a lot of guns.
He doesn't. No, I mean, that was not part of the conversation. If he does or does not, that did not come up.
Interesting. I feel like when someone says prepared, they either have a lot of guns or a lot of food.
So it's the food. Okay. So he weirdly has a basement, which is really uncommon in Texas. I know in the Midwest,
it a bunker?
Everyone has a basement. He did not call it a bunker. He did call it a basement. So
it's a basement.
So yeah, exactly. So either he knows what words not to use because he's not a doomsday prepper, or it really is a basement. And he said he has 18 months worth of food down there.
Wow.
And
That's
and he
impressive.
says he spends $300 to $400 a month on adding more food to this, which that's a lot of money for food.
I would imagine that's more money than he just spends on eating food in a month for a single dude.
Right. And so then, yeah, single. Well, he's a kid.
Okay.
He's from a previous marriage. Yeah. So, but he only has his kid half time. And, it just seems weird to be talking about this. And so then and I say, well, how do you keep your food not from going bad? And he goes oh, I rotate it, So
that's
it's
good.
Right, because that's what I would be
wasting
concerned about.
it.
He's not wasting. Yeah. He does rotate. He grows all his own vegetables. He has a huge vegetable garden, and he actually teaches classes for people that are trying to start vegetable gardens, which I actually thought that was cool because I was that's really how cool that you can grow your own. He says I don't buy vegetables. He's well, there are some vegetables that I don't grow that I'll go to other farmers and buy. It's okay, that's cool.
I think that's very cool, and that's a really cool skill to have. I have a big garden at my house too, so anytime anyone wants to talk about gardening, I'm totally game. I was just trying to plot out what I'm going to do this year because by the time I get home, hopefully it's spring, I'm going to have a watermelon
Allie, if you need any extra seedlings, I start my own vegetables inside and I always have extras if you want plants.
That'd be awesome. I'm not there to start them this year. Last year, my parents gave me all of my seedlings, and I had one zucchini plant that grew about 9,000 zucchinis, and I had 3 cucumber plants that grew about 9,000 cucumbers. I went to Colorado for a week last year, and I came home, and I had cucumbers that were 3 feet long.
They don't taste really good when they get that big either. It's this is kind of, yeah.
What do you do with that many cucumbers?
Give them away.
You can make refrigerator pickles.
Yeah, my neighbor in Wisconsin, they do that. They can, or they freeze what they can. But I got a ton of tomatoes, and I don't like tomatoes, so I would chop them up real small and put them in stuff. Because
you can make your own tomato sauce, tomato base, and then use it in soup or chili or spaghetti. Yeah.
But he also her husband would hunt and fish, so they would just have fresh food, because it's fresh, and then they just freeze it right away or whatever, and. So they would just have fresh food from their garden and from fishing all year. That's crazy.
Awesome.
That is awesome. That's great. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Fresh vegetables taste so much better and fruit than the ones you buy from the store. It's so much easier to eat them because they have more flavor.
Well, one of the things
you always get too many all at once.
Especially tomatoes.
See, that's the problem with tomatoes, though. Well, so that's the problem with tomatoes. I don't like the taste of tomatoes. So store-bought tomatoes, I'm actually starting to like because they taste less tomato-y. So it's really funny. I don't know.
transition.
Most people are the opposite.
I know. Yeah, most people are starting to grow their own tomatoes because.
Have you ever had a yellow tomato? Like a yellow, small, cherry-sized tomato? Okay.
Liz,
No,
They're
I've had.
sweeter.
I actually got a
Just-
whole
yeah.
surprise little yellow tomato plant in my garden last year. I think the previous homeowners must have had it there because I didn't plant it.
Oh, and it
Oh,
was
wow.
and it was a seed from the previous.
And it was huge.
Yeah.
I ended up with like a trunk about this big on the plant, and it like took over a whole side of my house, and it was just a single stem. So I
Wow.
had a bajillion of those tiny. They're sweet and soft and nice.
I really like them. So they're a very good
Hmm.
like entry. I didn't like tomatoes when I was a kid, and my grandparents used to garden and grow vegetables, and so they were like, "Try these," and I ate just those for many, many years before I graduated
Yeah.
to liking real red tomatoes. So they're in the grocery store too. They're never just straight yellow. You have to buy like the mixed cherry tomato
Got
box,
it.
but they have like purple and yellow, and they're better. I bought seeds for pink tomatoes this year. Have you ever either of you ever had a
No,
pink
are they
tomato?
little or big?
The picture makes them look big.
Okay.
Like bigger than a normal tomato.
Like a regular sized tomato,
Okay.
not like a cherry tomato.
Well, I'm looking forward to eating
So-
some, Liz. So do a good job growing them.
I'll try.
You
I'm
guys
like,
enjoy
why
eating
not?
those.
We're gonna ship you pink tomatoes to Texas. Ashley.
That's so not worth it. Just bring it to
Um,
Summit or something.
When you're here in September, no, they'll be gone by then. I don't know.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. To our actual topic for the day. Omnichannel.
This is all Allie.
Yeah, Allie's our guest speaker.
I'm so glad we asked Allie to be on the podcast so
Yeah.
she could share all her knowledge with us.
Except I can share the positives and the frustrating parts of Omnichannel for me because there's definitely been a little bit of both, but it's been a wild
I
ride.
feel like that's dynamics in general. Like there's always a frustration. And we usually always start with the frustrations, like the bad stuff.
Can we start with the good stuff today?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about Omnichannel too, which is kind of a good thing but also a frustrating thing, that's a good place to start, is that it's new for a lot of people. So if you run into an issue and try to find online some help of someone else who encountered the same issue, that can be really tricky sometimes because like a lot of other
Mhm.
places of dynamics, there's just not a ton of documentation or blogs or anything out there yet on it. A lot of the blogs I've found have very similar content as to what you can find on Microsoft Learn. So it's like if you run into a roadblock, you do a lot of troubleshooting on your own to try to figure it out and solve problems. So that's just kind of one of the standouts,
Interesting.
but it's been fun to
Sounds
learn.
like you should write a blog.
Yeah.
That's like a good place to start a blog, right? Is there's nothing out there with the content.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I guess should we just start by outlining what Omnichannel is? Is that a good place to start?
Yeah, I think that's a good
Yes.
spot. And how is it different than the like customer service app, like first party app too?
Okay. Yeah. So I think just kind of taking it back to the beginning and talking about customer service through Dynamics, it really comes with a couple out of the box apps, right? You have your customer service workspace, customer service hub, and then you have your admin center. So with your customer service licensing, you get access to all three of those apps. The customer service workspace is really nice for your tier one folks, and it's geared towards people who are working on cases regularly throughout the day. So you often come into your dashboard, see the cases that you're working on that you need to update. You can see new cases coming in. You can pick cases to work on if they're coming in through like a portal or something, or they can be assigned out to individuals as well. And the experience that you have in that workspace app is really similar to what's in Omnichannel, except instead of just using dashboards to manage your case workload, that's where you have your voice channels coming in, text channels coming in, web chat. I'm trying to think, Facebook, all the social media channels you can have coming in through the Omnichannel app as well. So it just gives you a different dashboard that combines all of these different ways that people are reaching out to your company. And you can kind of see them in one view, which is really nice too.
So there is actually a way to connect like people's mentions or things like that on Twitter. Into
yeah, like
Dynamics.
Facebook messages, for example. So if you're getting messages through your business posting, those can come in through Dynamics. Likewise, if you have a chat widget on your website and people are contacting you through that, it comes in as well. You can set up your channels to be either push or pick. And if you push them out to your agents, that basically means that if a contact comes in, it'll give you a notification right on your screen that someone's trying to contact you and the agent can accept it from right there. If you set it to be pick, like maybe you have cases getting submitted on a portal or emails coming in, instead of assigning those out live because there's not somebody actually on the line waiting for you to contact them, you can send them into a pick queue, which basically allows your users to hang up the phone with somebody or end a web chat and then go and look at that queue and see what's waiting there, like if it's an email or a case, and they can pick those to work on too.
So is there a way to like round robin cases?
Yeah, so you can actually set up work distribution in a few different ways. You can set it up to round robin if you want to, otherwise, highest capacity. The fanciest, I'll say, would be the skill based routing too. So there's a way for you to set up different skills for your agents as well. So if like a phone call comes in for a very specific skill set, like I can't think of any examples, but if someone's well equipped to like answer a very specific product question, you can add that skill to their profile. So if a call comes in and someone wants to know about that information, whether it's from like a prompt on your phone where you're saying, hey, I have a question about treadmills, press 2, and then they press 2, and then it'll go to the person who has the skill that matches treadmill questions. So you can set up the routing that way too, which is really cool.
Out of curiosity, do you have any idea when that got added?
The skill-based routing?
Or just any routing? Like more than just like going in a circle, like a way to like do the skill or the like capacity or even round
Actually, are you
robin
asking even if it's always been part of Omnichannel?
Yeah, or just customer service. I think
Well,
we're just talking
that's
about
not customer. That's not.
Oh,
customer
that's
service.
Omnichannel.
No, out of the box routing
okay.
does not do that.
No.
Thank you. Okay,
No.
that's I guess what I was trying to answer, because the last time I touched customer service was 2019, and we like built this outside plugin to basically do exactly what you just said. So I was like trying to think like, okay, when did this become like, so fine, it's part of Omnichannel.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that's
Okay.
a really good distinction point though for listeners, is that there's like normal out of the box routing, which I don't think has changed. Actually, it's still the same as what
it just like goes in a circle. Like you could have like 10 people and it goes 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 10 1 2 3 4, right?
Well, and you can set
Like,
up,
it just
they actually call them like
rotates?
basic routing rules now. So you can set up some type of rules using those out of the box capabilities. It just isn't skill based necessarily.
Or like capacity. That's I think a big key one too. Like if everyone if you can only have so many cases or something like that.
Exactly. And with
That's
the
like a huge
capacity
one.
too, it's up to the business to determine what their capacity numbers are. So out of the box, they give you on a scale of like up to 100. So I would say my capacity limit is 100. If I'm working on a phone call, maybe that's 100 right there. So if I take a phone call, I can only focus on that one thing. So it's using up all of my capacity.
So each
That's
type of
cool.
incoming communication can be given its own score. So they like chat versus voice versus social can be treated differently.
Because you could do 5 chats at once, but you can only do 1 phone call.
Exactly. So you could set up, your chats to be 25 units. And you can do 4.
I'm amazed right now. Like I'm so taken aback. Keep going. I want to hear more. Like how much better has it gotten?
So Allie, you have to use queues to do unified routing, right?
Yes. So unified routing is more of the advanced routing using advanced queues. So you can still have your basic queues that are set up with the basic routing rules, but then you have advanced queues. And actually with Omnichannel, in order to like route specific records to, you would use the unified routing as well. So you can set up unified routing to use those advanced queue like functionality.
Well, I think queues are dumb anyways, so I hate queues. I usually just end up routing like directly to a person, or like fine, it's in a queue, but
I think from my minimum exposure I've had to it, which was just they only had emails coming in and they only used Omnichannel just for the routing because they had call centers globally. It was very complex, the routing rules. So they were just routing emails, but they had just hundreds and hundreds of queues to like manage it. And it was like, you have to use the queues as part of the solution?
Yeah, so basically,
I
like
think it
in
depends.
short, the advanced queues come with more settings. And okay, so there's a whole bunch of different items within Omnichannel that work together in this way too. So instead of just using queues, you have work streams, channels, and queues, and they're all kind of on top of each other. So I could set up like an inbound case work stream that has its own set of rules tied to it, and you may have different queues for those cases as well. So I could say if I get an inbound case, it's going to bring it into this case work stream. And then based off of the rules that I have set up in there, like say it came from a specific email address, then you could route that case into a very specific queue as well. So it kind of has like that funnel where it's like an intake of everything and then spits it out to those routing rules into different queues.
So there's kind of like 3 levels of hierarchy that it goes through to figure out how to get routed.
Yeah, basically. So you have, the channels are what we talked about already, where they can come in email, Facebook, chat, phone, whatever. And then you have the work streams that are set up to correspond with that. And then queues are going to be a layer below within that work stream.
Okay. Interesting.
It's a lot of complexity, like way more than obviously it's more than what I remember because I've never worked with the Omnichannel.
Well, it's more powerful too.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to really think through a lot though. Like there's so much there that you have to like.
And really starting to
think about
map it out
time.
too, and trying to figure out, where do I want my work items to go? What queues do they want to go into? How are you going to assign people to queues? Really, that's a big determining factor on how you want to set up your queues too, is going to be based off of who's going to man them. So those are important decisions to make, is do I want to have 100 different queues to divide up the work items, or do I really want to look at it and say this team is going to handle all these work items, therefore I just need one queue where I can send them all to. So you can kind of, depends on your business, but you can make those decisions and then set up your queues in whatever way makes sense.
Do you have any advice or tips for an organization that is thinking about deploying this or prepping for a deployment, like best practices of how to get started and approach it?
That's a very good question. I think the best advice I can say is that there's tons of setup involved and you have to do things in the right order. I think if you're going to go omni-channel, one of the first things to think about is if you want voice included and what that would look like for your organization. Porting over existing phone numbers from Teams, for example. I'll actually pause on that note because one thing that I've noticed a lot of people think is that Teams phone calls are omni-channel, and they're not. So the omni-channel voice is actually a separate channel that's not related to Teams. So if your organization is currently on Teams for phone numbers, and like you have a main business phone number coming in through Teams, you would actually switch that over and port that into Dynamics to use it in your omni-channel voice channel. So it is a different phone call capability. It's not the same thing.
Are there any plans, do you know of, to like merge that or change that?
Not that I know of. But again, it's more so call center focused, right? So the Omnichannel app with that voice channel coming in is meant to field inbound phone calls from customers. And it actually does have a much better experience than within Teams. So you're all working within one screen. It's a tabular experience, which basically means every time a phone call comes in, you are working within one browser window, and within your screen, you have a bunch of tabs that you can open across the top of your screen. So it really helps you to stay organized in that way. Whereas like with Teams, it opens up, even this is one thing that drives me nuts about Teams in general, is whenever you start a new chat, it opens up a new window, and all of a sudden you have all these million windows all over the place. So I think that honestly, the way that the voice phone calls come into Omnichannel keeps your phone agents better organized than Teams would do.
I have a lot of complaints about Teams. We should
My Teams doesn't open up new windows for chats. That has to be a setting.
Is that calls though? Because I don't take calls
No,
through
not
Teams like that.
calls.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't take calls, yeah. No, I mean,
but I do have a lot of complaints about
Teams. Teams could have some improvement. No, but I mean, when you pop out, like if you pop out a chat, how Skype used to put it all in like one thing, and Teams opens up every single chat.
Like AOL Messenger.
Yeah.
Like that experience. Okay.
No, I get you. Yeah, I guess I never pop out chats.
I don't either.
I lose track of things if I don't do that.
Yeah.
But I
No,
use
I
the
could see it,
browser-based Teams more than anything, and I don't know if you can do it there.
That doesn't have as many options in it, I've
Mhm.
noticed. So, Allie, it sounds like planning ahead of time and that there's some maybe critical upfront pieces like, are you going to do voice or not? I'm assuming that the whole organization doesn't have to move to the omni-channel voice, and you could keep like your like people that aren't agents on Teams, or do you have to switch everyone?
Nope, in fact, that's what a lot of businesses will do is keep like your internal personal lines set up through Teams if you want to. You can set up personal numbers through Omnichannel if you want to. But the reason you wouldn't too is because the customer service licensing is its own beast. And then you have the Omnichannel licensing, which is totally separate. So for your organization, you actually have to buy the customer service licensing and the digital messaging add-on licensing as well. So because there's that additional
Oh,
licensing cost there,
lovely.
you wouldn't just put a whole bunch of people that wouldn't be using that omnichannel functionality in omnichannel.
That makes sense. So I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have any idea of how much more it costs
It's
to add
Yeah,
on
I
to that?
believe it's double. So I think your customer service licensing is about $100 per user per month, and the omnichannel digital add-on is also $100 per user per month. Approximate.
And
That's
you
not
have
exact.
to have customer service to like
Yes, because it is an
put it
add-on.
on, right? Like you can't
Customer
just buy
service
Omnichannel.
base.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
So
crazy.
it's pricey.
It's pricey. And if
So you probably need to have a decent sized call center or team to get ROI on that then, I would assume.
Yeah, I can't speak to how expensive other call center programs are, but thinking back to like I used to work in a call center and we had Cisco, and I know that was not cheap programming to have either. So a lot of customer service platforms for phone calls like that are on the pricier side. So I'm not sure how they compare, but I just kind of remember anecdotally that they typically are expensive anyway. With
Yeah.
being efficient is a big part of it is you really have to look at what your business is doing and how much time you're spending interacting with customers and how more efficient you want them to be, right? Because with tools like Omnichannel, you can use Power Virtual Agents to pick up the phone calls first. You can use them for chats as well. So if your agents are signing in and having repetitive conversation with customers for the first 5 to 10 minutes of every single phone call or every single chat, then you can set up that automation to go along with it and really shave down the amount of time that your agents are interacting with customers. And I think that's a huge efficiency part of it too. So also something to keep in mind if you're wanting to switch to omnichannel.
Well, since PVA came up, I mean, we have to talk about how cool it is that Chat GPT is now part of PVA, right? Carry over from last week.
Carry over from last week. That was really cool to see. I actually saw that in a demo earlier this week, which would be yesterday because today's only Tuesday. But it was really cool to see.
It's clearly already been a long week.
I know, exactly.
Do you want to tell us a little about it?
Honestly, I
Allie?
don't know too much about it. I did see that it's a setting that you can turn on, and the application where it comes into play with Omnichannel specifically is for searching for knowledge base articles. So we haven't really touched on that yet, but because Omnichannel is related to customer service, you still have knowledge articles that can be integrated as well. So if you create a new case and you type in some keywords in the case title, it'll show you potentially matching knowledge articles on the side of your screen so the agents can get help immediately to help the customers. And likewise, if those knowledge articles are published externally, you can set that up for like your PVA, where if someone starts asking, how do I do this? You can use that chat GPT functionality to like go peruse your knowledge base articles and send some information back to the customer.
That is so cool. That's what I was wondering if it was going to work externally. Like, that was my burning question. So,
What else do you guys want to know about
um,
Omnichannel? Like I said, it's a whole lot of configuration, a whole lot of setup steps. You can get very granular. Um, it's really, I don't want to say it's complex, like super complex to implement because there's a whole lot of detail involved, but if you go through some of the steps to set it up that Microsoft has available to you, they do help you out along the way. Um, Once you get in there and you know what you're doing and you understand, it's pretty intuitive too. So I don't think it's anything to be afraid of, is I guess what I'm getting at with that comment. it has everything from like hold music available to you that you can pick from. You can import your own hold music and hold messages for phones if you want to. We've already talked a little bit about using um, chat bots to help with conversations, but you can still use that customer service functionality of agent scripting and those types of things to help your agents have conversations with clients as well.
It sounds like the scariest part is like the BA part, like doing the like requirements gathering and like the design of like you said, like clearly it takes a lot of time to like strategize how it would be used and things like that and like how granular you want to get. That's the part of the be scary, like actually going
Especially
in
if
and
you're
configure and setting it up.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right?
like Allie, you're like, I have all this tribal knowledge in my head now because you've gone through this implementation. But if it's your first time doing it, it's like, okay, I need to plan, but what do I plan for? And like, what do I even ask? Because you don't know where kind of the gotchas, where they are, what, is even important. Do you have any other advice or like, are there resources? I know you said there's very little documentation.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I think if I had to give some more advice on it too, I would really say concentrate on what you want the future state of your call center to be. And because you can really make that come to life with the omnichannel application is it's not so much this is how we're interacting with our customers now, but this is how I want to interact with them. And just know that you have a lot of flexibility in even what you can display for your agents, because really what's behind omnichannel is efficiency for your agents. So when I'm talking about having options to customize, like you can truly customize even what screens automatically open whenever you get a new phone call. And those screens that automatically open can be different than if you're getting a web chat, and they can be different than if you're responding to a case. So you can literally customize that whole experience for your agent and then what you want those screens to look like.
And do those tabs have to be like within Dynamics only, or can they include external tabs, like if you had an ERP system that you had to like get access to or something?
You absolutely can show external tabs, which is really cool. So it's you can set those up to display like your own website if you wanted to. If you have reference materials on your website that you want your agents to be able to see quickly, you can set those up to display. Um, ERP system pages, you can set those up. You can really make it easy for your technicians to find what they need.
But it has to be like cloud-based, browser-based. Like if you had a homegrown ERP system that's like a desktop application, that's where you would have to use like something like USD, right?
That's a good question. I actually don't know the answer to that. I haven't encountered trying to add it to any desktop applications.
Is USD even around anymore, actually?
It is still around.
Okay.
But it's like, hey, it's like I would compare it to GP. Like, hey, this is still here and it runs and it's cool. But if you can, let's get you over onto this newer, cooler thing, which I'm guessing is
I was
Omnichannel.
gonna say, I just figured Omnichannel was the replacement for USD.
Yeah, but I think in that exact scenario is where USD still comes in, because if the companies are on, because I remember we evaluated USD at a company that I was at, and this was 8 years ago, 2015, because we had a legacy ERP system that was it was not available in the browser, in the cloud. It sat on servers on site. It was crazy. It's a terrible system, but like no other customer service application would work with it, but USD would. So, but I think that's why USD is like kind of hanging on.
Okay, that makes sense. I kind of just didn't
There
think
was
of that.
well, there was a session on USD last year at Summit, and like
Okay.
how you can still use it, but like it was a kind of like how Microsoft did GP really terribly at Summit, of like, hey, cool that you're on GP, but here's all the partners that can move you to Business Central.
And really, I think that's
yeah.
and I guess for our listeners, USD is Unified Service Desk, right? So
Thank you,
You're
Allie.
welcome.
Yep.
And I would say if you're currently on that, to definitely look at Omnichannel, because that is the future application for sure. And I know there's been a lot of interest recently from companies who are still running USD to make the switch over to Omnichannel, because there's a point where your functionality just isn't going to be there anymore. Things aren't being supported.
Mm-hmm.
It's like what we run into every day, you guys, with the Maker Portal versus the Classic UI, and the Classic is just getting slower and slower every single day.
Who uses the classic UI?
You'd be shocked. I
No,
know
I
a lot
know.
of, well, I would say a
I've heard
lot of
people
like,
haven't switched over yet,
Mhm.
which shocks me because it
Yeah.
is so bad.
I know a lot of people where you're like, okay, open up like the back end or whatever, and they open up the legacy, and I'm like, no, like the Maker Portal, and they're like, oh, I just haven't gotten there yet. And I'm like,
It's only been
you
out
should.
for 5 years.
I was like, but you really should get there soon. Like,
yeah,
this is gonna go away. Like, security is even moving to the new UI in this
Yeah.
next
Oh
wave.
my gosh.
So like,
they're getting okay.
yeah. So it's not. I don't know if it's available for public preview yet. I forget when the GA is on that. I'll definitely put that in the notes on our website.
When you say
But, like-
moving to the new UI,
like
you've always been
the-
able to access it from there.
Right. No,
they're
but like
giving
even
this-
the little circles, like
they're
the
giving
little-
that a facelift.
That's what it sounds like based on the release plan.
That's exciting.
I just
got
read
really
through the
off
release
topic.
plan in the last week, so for clients, so that's how I know. So like everything is starting to move
Mhm.
out
Yeah.
of the classic. Like I always tell people, I'm like, okay, cool, today you can, but tomorrow you might not be able to.
And there are still some arguments
if
of
you're
stuff that you
moving-
can't do
okay.
in Classic, but I swear every day when I go in there, I find something new that wasn't there before. And
Mhm.
the best way to
Yeah.
learn and see if it's in there is to just continue going into the Maker Portal.
It'll be all switched over before we know it.
Absolutely.
I'll also say.
So
Oh yeah,
if
sorry. Go ahead, Liz.
okay. No, I was just gonna ask, like, if a client, a customer that's listening thinks that they want to move from USD to Omnichannel, it's like a completely new implementation, though. Like, there's no sort of migration
Correct.
from one to the other.
Yep.
Okay, I figured that. I just thought I'd ask.
Yes, it would be a brand new implementation, totally worth it, I would say. Plug right there. And just to loop back for a second on the security,
Yeah.
there is the new user management available in the customer service admin center. And I love it. It's not the security roles yet, but there are pieces that make it really, really easy. Like you can select 10 users and add them 5 queues at once. So you don't have to go through to every single person anymore and say, okay, add this person to this queue.
That's nice.
You can add skills to them in
Awesome.
bulk. You can add capacity profiles and all these other things to enable inbound, outbound calling to them in bulk. So using that, I have just been super excited for the new security because it's so much more efficient than it's been in the past.
So, Allie, I know you had mentioned like frustrations with it. I feel like we haven't had a vent sesh yet. Anything you want to say that, has frustrated you with your time working with it?
I would say that once you think that you have uncovered all of the settings, new items pop up. So it is, again, just kind of like
Nice.
preparing and knowing and what's out there. And you can't really do that unless you've been through it before. Fortunately, I've had some clients ask very, very good questions where I've had to do deep dives into it and really uncover a lot of functionality. And I think that once you've done it a few times, you'll be able to implement it nice and smoothly. But it's just, it can be very particular in the order that you do things. Like, for example, I was talking about if you do a pick versus push work stream to get items either sent out to your agents, you can't change that after you create the work stream. And the work stream is one of the
I was wondering that.
yeah, and like the work stream is one of the first things you create because then you do the routing rules on top of that, right? So if you go through all of that and then you're told, okay, no, we want to switch this to a pick, it's locked and you can't switch it. So you have to recreate.
So you have to like go back and start
Yes.
over.
Yes, you do.
Wow. So the marketing app was like that too when it first came out. Like there were like settings that you had to do in a specific order, and Microsoft didn't tell you what those were. They now have like a user setup guide where it literally walks you through like, okay, run this app. It'll pre-configure these things that we already knew had to be done, and then go do this. And it like literally gives you like setting up and things like that of the marketing app is a lot easier than it was 4 years ago when I did it. I wonder, Omnichannel kind of like that? Does Microsoft have documentation of like, watch out for this, like the one that you just said, or like do things in this order, or is it just kind of like you have to try it and figure it out and then
There might be documentation out there that lists out those types of things. I have not seen it. And I would also
Okay.
preface that with there's a ton of documentation out there on Microsoft Learn. I haven't seen it all combined in that way, I guess. So if you're looking for something specific, you might be able to find that, but I haven't seen anything of like a whole, here's the order in which you have to implement things.
Is there anything else where like it's not changeable once you make that decision that people should know about?
Nothing that really comes to mind. That one is one that was a standout, that got me early on, but maybe I should have taken
I could see
notes.
that being really painful and like a big time suck or even if you just don't know and you make the wrong, like it's like, oh, we
You have to
changed
start
our
over.
minds, you'll start over. Yeah.
Or we didn't know, like,
Yeah.
we thought it would be this, and yeah, that's interesting.
It sounds like it's a type of project where I'm just gonna throw this out there that you probably want to work with a partner or consultant. Like it does not seem like something that you'd want to tackle with a lean internal team.
Yeah.
You know what's funny, Liz, is I thought you were gonna say waterfall. Like, let's gather all our requirements.
That
kind of does, unfortunately, seem. Yeah. But I agree 100% on the partner thing. I guess I hadn't even considered that you would do it without a partner.
We actually got a request recently asking if it was worth getting help or if a customer could just go through and set it up on their own. And when I was asked, I was like, we need to help them. Just because you could waste a lot of time and internal resources trying to get it set up instead of grabbing somebody who's been through it before, who can help you, who can ask you the right questions, who can help you make the right decisions. So, my biased and unbiased opinion would also be to go with a partner to get your help, to get some help. But I could see going down rabbit holes like crazy and totally getting lost along the way if you didn't have help, for sure.
I feel like you could also get things into such a knot that you couldn't undo it. Like you'd have to completely start over. Like it sounds like something that you can easily mess up.
Even
to the point where it's unsavable.
Yeah, and honestly, even naming conventions are important too, because things like cues show up in tons of different views. I guess that's one thing I haven't talked about is Omnichannel actually comes with some pretty sweet out of the box dashboards that I really like that give summaries to you on like what queues people are a part of or how many calls have come into each of your queues. It shows you what your current agent status is and even allows supervisors to go in and modify those statuses. So you can really like manage your teams too. And these are all in Power BI dashboards that just come with it. And so that's very, very cool too. But again, you want your queues and channels to show up in those reports correctly. So you're not just seeing weird terms all over the place. So even things as granular as like how you name your queues are going to be really important. It's important to be organized there too. And granted, you can go in and you can change the names of queues. Those aren't locked down. But I would say, you want to get them right from the beginning so you don't have to redo it.
It's good to know that they're highly visible. So you want the names to make sense.
Right. Channels too.
That's a good tip.
Yeah. Also, the other thing, I'm getting really excited now, you guys. So one more thing.
Any last thoughts, Allie?
The other thing that I love.
We're running out of time.
Sorry, it's so exciting. This is a good one. The other thing that comes along with it for supervisors is your supervisors can actually monitor ongoing conversations. So, like if your agent is doing a web chat or on the phone with somebody, a supervisor can choose to join that conversation. And there's this dashboard again that comes out of the box with Omnichannel that shows customer sentiment by conversation. So if a supervisor is looking at that and they see that a sentiment is going like to slightly negative or negative, they can select that conversation, choose to monitor it. They can watch the live transcription of the live phone call. They can listen in on the live phone call, and they can even join to help out if they feel like it's necessary. And then same for web chat. They can read everything.
Does the agent know that they're watching them?
They do. Yeah.
Okay.
So they get a pop-up as well. Okay. It's kind of like a side-by-side, and it'll show like the agent can see their screen, and then it'll show like the supervisor next to them. So if the supervisor wants to give help without joining the phone call, for example, they can send messages like chat messages right within that Omnichannel screen. So the tech sees it side by side with their ongoing conversation. and they can say like, no, you want to direct them here, help them with this. So it has like some really cool supervisor
cool.
activity too.
Can they get
That's
alerts
neat.
like if there's a negative sentiment, or is it just if they're monitoring?
So out of the box,
You
there's
know.
not alerts that go out, but we could totally set that up too. So all of that's recorded. You could set up alerts with a little extra work. I'm thinking probably Power Automate or something like that, but there's got to be a way.
It looks a cool tool for like training and coaching, or if you have more junior resources, like having that functionality would be, I don't know, it feels like a game changer for like managing a team. Yeah.
Rather than like walking around cubicles, like monitoring people's conversations.
Well, and everyone's probably working virtually these days too. So you can't just overhear like, oh, this call's going bad. Let me like help them. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, that's when I worked with customer service teams, they were in person, right? All in a cubicle, on a floor. But like, that's just not the way people work anymore. So it's nice to see that technology has caught up to a way to make it still like functional and easy for managers to get involved.
Well, and honestly, even live, because I remember when I worked in a call center right out of college, they would quality control our phone calls. And it would be like a week after the call occurred because they would listen to the recording, they'd give you some feedback. It's like, I don't remember what this conversation was about. And
you're like, I'm talking to 100 people a day or whatever.
And so now for them to see it live, and it can be based off of that sentiment too of like, oh my gosh, I think they need my help. Then your call center people are going to feel more supported too, instead of feeling like I'm suffering through this phone call and my boss isn't available. You can, you guys, I could talk about this forever because I'm thinking of all this other stuff. Like,
well, we could always do a follow-up, right? Like, we don't have to talk about everything today.
Are we deciding we're going to do a second episode on this topic then?
I think we have to. I mean, at some point, right? Not like right away, but
sure. Yeah. There's just so many
Sorry,
features.
Allie, not to like cut you off.
No, it's good. I think we can leave people wanting more.
We got to leave the people wanting more.
I had just one other thing. I know Wave 1 like releases coming up. Is there anything exciting that's new that's coming out with Omnichannel?
I haven't looked at that either. That'll be another coming soon for next time.
Sounds good.
ChatGPT is probably the most exciting thing, right?
And that's not even directly Omnichannel. It's just available in PVAs.
Well, thanks, Allie, for sharing your expertise on this one.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I learned a lot.
If anyone has other questions, send them our way and we'll see what we can do to help out.
Thanks for tuning in to Dynamics Hot Dish, your go-to podcast for all things Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to follow us on social media for even more insights and updates on the latest trends and best practices in business applications and low-code development. We'll be back soon with another delicious serving of Dynamics and Power Platform goodness. Until then, keep innovating and building great solutions.